In Talladega, it's a never-ending struggle of risk versus reward.
Huge wreck here, guys.
Factor in the playoffs, and now there's this irony.
Anytime you go speedway racing, so much can happen.
In an effort to win the big one,
Reddick steals one.
drivers will have to avoid the other big one.
Oh, my goodness.
Get out of the way.
You're just kind of on the edge of your seat.
A new Around the Track starts now.
Welcome to Around the Track. My name is Gabe McDonald, and the NASCAR playoffs are in Talladega this weekend. And the big question is, will we get the big one in the second round of 12 race? And speaking of the big one, we got the big guy on set today. My crew chief, America's crew chief, Larry McReynolds, is in the building for another week. Plus, Stewart Haas Racing's and Xfinity regular season champion Cole Custer sits down with us. But first, let's go ahead and get dirty at Dega ahead of this weekend's race. And what better way to shake up NASCAR's playoffs than throw in a super speedway where anyone has a chance to win? Strategy and luck are a marriage here that can't be broken up if you want to win. With speeds reaching more than 200 miles per hour, we're going to get the 3, maybe even 4 wide action that Talladega delivers, but it requires some patience and a little bit of thought as well. Now, saving fuel will either win or lose you position late in this race. We've talked about the wrecks, the crowd will thin out as well, but what did the drivers think about this iconic track?
Anytime you go speedway racing, so much can happen in such a short amount of time that you're just kind of on the edge of your seat, if you will, throughout the whole race, just hoping that you can get out of there with a race car that's clean and leaves the way that it came to the racetrack.
I mean, it's similar to round one, road course and a speedway being in it. And then you have one race that's kind of a little bit more known, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it's a funky round, but same for everybody. I don't think anyone has an advantage. No one has a disadvantage. It's just how you perform in those races, how you position yourself. You hope, you hope to control your fate as much as you can on the speedway at Talladega. Sometimes you just don't know what's going to happen there, but all you can do is just try to run up front, and I feel like that's the best place to be. So,
Let's do Talladega by the numbers now. This is the largest track in the NASCAR circuit. It's a tri-oval that's just over 2.5 miles. And the banking, it's steep, folks, at 33 degrees in turns 1, 2, 3, and 4. Dale Earnhardt Sr. has the most victories here at 10, but the active driver with the most wins, none other than Brad Keselowski, with 6 in his career. And when it comes to Cup playoff guys, 4 of the 6 active Talladega playoff race winners are playoff contenders this year. Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, and Joey Logano. And the driver with the most laps led here without a win, that is a 24 car, Mr. William Byron. It's time to bring in the man who knows all about Talladega, a man who single-handedly won races for many drivers, America's crew chief Larry McReynolds, back with us for another weekend. Larry, it's going to be another wild weekend in the playoffs.
Well, again, Talladega is always wild, but when I think you throw in the fact, Gabe, that this is the middle race of the round of 12, that just ramps the intensity up. If history repeats, we're probably going to have 70-plus lead changes, and that's measured at the start-finish line. Yep. And I heard you say, if we'll have the big one, it's when we're going to have the big one or the big ones. Here's the thing. We're going to go 188 laps, 500 miles. There's a good chance we're not going to know who's going to win this thing till they're coming through that tri-oval with the checkered flag waving. It's always that way. You can go down there and you can dominate this race, but all it takes is one driver making a mistake, and we can see half the field gone.
Just like we saw in the spring, and of course, everyone is thinking about it at home, so let's just go ahead and get it out of the way. Talladega is known for the big race like you just alluded to. Is there really any way or strategy for trying to avoid the big one?
It's hard. If you're a non-playoff driver, what you can do is play it safe and cool in those first 2 stages, kind of get out of harm's way. But if you're a playoff driver, you can't give up any stage points. You've got to go at it, because we've seen drivers get in trouble running at the back of the pack, the middle of the pack. Gabe, we've even seen the leader get in trouble at Talladega.
Yeah, and of course, we'll look at the Xfinity playoffs later in the show. But as for the big boys in the Cup, yet again, a winner last week that's not in the playoffs. We saw a watermelon smash for the first time this year. We had some early exits from Kansas that shook up the standings as well. So let's look at the playoff standings as we sit currently. Yellow is the danger zone and your regular season champ. Yeah, he is in it, folks. Tyler Reddick 4 points behind the cut line heading into this weekend's race. Now, it's nothing to sweat right now, because that can really be made up in a lap if we're being honest. Dennis Suarez, Chase Briscoe, and Austin Cindric are all in the cut zone right now as well. Then you have William Byron at the top, sitting pretty, 34 points clear of the cut. Alex Bowman, Chase Elliott, and Joe Logano a little close there to being on the outside looking in. So, Larry, what sticks out to you here as we look into the second round of 12 race with these fans?
Well, I look at Byron, Blaney, and Bell, the cushion they've got to that cut line. If we were going to a conventional track, I would say they're in good shape. They don't need to worry about a thing, but we're going to Talladega. And I kind of touched on it a while ago. Yeah, maybe they play it safe for that first stage and kind of see what happens. But I think if you're any of those other drivers, you've got to go out there. You've got to try to score every single stage point you can. Joey Logano put it best a couple of years ago. He said, I'm not riding in the back no more. I've ridden in the back. I didn't score any stage points. And as I was trying to go to the front, I still got caught up in the big wreck, and I left Talladega with nothing. I'm going to go for stage points, and I think that's what most of these playoff drivers and teams really have to do.
Absolutely. And that's something that even Denny Hamlin alluded to. He's playing offense right now. That's definitely what you have to do here in Talladega, even though you always have to be worried about the big one. Now, we just saw the standings there. Tyler Reddick, a lot of people have them in the championship 4. He was a regular season champion. Still 2 races left in this round, though, and he's at a decent at road racing. We're coming to the Roval next week. Is he really in danger here to sit in 4 points behind the cut line?
Well, I definitely had him going to my championship 4, and I talked to Tyler earlier in the week, and he's a little bit confused right now because, remember, they won the regular season championship. He went through a period of the Coke 600 to Michigan where he won 11 races, only 1 finished outside the top 10. And before the playoffs, and now that we started the playoffs, no top 5s and only 2 top 10s. I know he won the spring Talladega race, but he knows that's an anomaly. He only led the final 2 laps. But yeah, we'll be anxious to see what he can do when we get to the Charlotte Roval because we know how good he is turning left and right.
When you look at the 45 team real quick, how do you see them being able to maybe correct some of the mistakes they've made so far in the playoffs?
I think that's the key, mistakes. That's what all of these playoff drivers and teams have to do. Other than Bristol, the number of mistakes, penalties, self-inflicted issues that they have had, it has been a lot of them. They've got to clean that up starting right at Talladega this weekend.
Absolutely. We've been talking about Dega. Pitting is one thing here, but the fuel window is going to be another beast here. Now, Joey Logano, he's somebody that's almost perfected the style of racing when it comes to saving the fuel, and obviously he has to stay clean. When you look at the window and just pitting, how many times are we going to see guys having to pit and come for fuel this weekend?
Yeah, the stages are interesting, Gabe. They're 60, 60, and 68, pretty even. The fuel window is around 44 to 46 laps, so you have to stop at least once in each stage. And yeah, they're going to be saving fuel. And normally it's not to save fuel, it's to make the next pit stop quicker by having to dump a smaller amount of fuel in there. But what I see probably in the stages, especially if we get into green flag stops, is fuel only, maybe just 2 tires, never 4 tires. The only time you maybe change 4 tires is just at the 2 stage breaks. Track position will be king.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even a guy like Brad Keselowski, I mean, obviously, you know, not in the playoffs too, but just a guy that has a lot of success here. How do you see him just being able to be a player, maybe even spoil another weekend like we saw Ross Chastain?
Well, he's one of those guys, he doesn't have to worry about stage 1.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to worry about stage 2. He just needs to be there, start to be aggressive in that final stage. Man's won there 6 times. We know he knows how to get it done. I think both RFK cars will be strong there. Chris Buescher, of course, he was knocked out. Yeah. So I would say if anybody knows how to get to the front, it's actually where he won his very first career race back in 2009.
Always got to be wary of those Fords. And, of course, Larry Mackey is not going anywhere because we have a lot more coming up here on Around the Track. And we're going to talk about the GOAT, Michael Jordan. He's throwing his weight around the NASCAR world, and he's calling the France family bullies in the process. The latest on the 2311 lawsuit against NASCAR is coming up. And Dale Jr. knows a driver when he sees one. Connor Zilisch making an impression already, but he just signed another young talent to his roster. Who's the next JR Motorsport phenom? We'll tell you when Around the Track continues. Back here on Around the Track, Dale Jr.'s youth movement in the Xfinity Series continues as he's found his next driver. Carson Quapil will compete full-time for JR Motorsports in the Xfinity Series during the 2025 season. The 2-time Car Series champion has been tearing up any competition he faces in any series. Quapil has competed in 8 Xfinity races during the 2024 season, scoring 3 top 5 and 4 top 10 finishes. Carson will replace Sam Mayer in the 1 car, who's moving to the Haas factory team. Gabe McDonald back along America's crew chief, Larry McReynolds. Larry, the Xfinity Series on the CW Network really mirrored the Cup Series last week. Eric Almirola proving he still got it, but no one punched a ticket into the Elite Eight. After watching Kansas, who are you really keeping an eye on here at the Xfinity playoffs?
Well, 2 drivers in particular. One, just like Cup, nobody's safe because we are headed to Talladega. But Sheldon Creed, the Toyotas, the Joe Gibbs Toyotas in Xfinity were so fast down there at Daytona in August with Ryan Truex actually winning that race. Sheldon Creed, somewhere he's going to break out of this, just finishing in second. Speaking of junior motorsports, Justin Allgaier. We know the junior motorsports car, they will have good speed there this weekend. They have got to stop the bleeding. They had a good cushion headed into Kansas, another disastrous race. That's 4 in a row. Now he finds himself 1 point below that cut line. I won't say he's got to win, but they got to stop the bleeding.
Got to clean up those mistakes for sure. And 00 Custer is on the case in Talladega this weekend. Now, the weather is calling for some heat, but in this week's Garage Confidential, it's getting a little chilly. Why? Well, the Reign Xfinity Series champion Cole Custer met up with our caller Gebhardt at a custard shop. Check it out.
All right, well, not at a race shop. We're at Andy's Frozen Custard here with Cole Custer. So the perfect sponsor. I mean, like, that is the epitome of like taking your last name and making it into a full-time ride for you.
It really has been awesome. I mean, like, perfect fit having Andy's Frozen Custard with Cole Custer. So, I mean, and have my own treat. So it's been really cool working with their brand this year and seeing how involved they are in racing and just trying to grow them, grow them more and more throughout the country.
Yeah, we're gonna get a sneak peek of your actual treat here in a little bit, but let's talk a little bit about the race weekend, this weekend, going to Talladega, a very unknown track. A lot of drivers don't even really know how to approach this. It's kind of like mentality of just surviving. You're, though, sitting pretty well on the points right now, but this is gonna be an important race for you to possibly get locked in.
Yeah, I mean, it's chaotic. I mean, this is definitely the most chaotic race of the whole playoffs. So if you can get through this race good, it's definitely a high priority because you can really make or break your playoffs in this race. And for us, it was huge having a good points lead going into this because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you're going to wreck, if you're going to win. So it's, at the end of the day, it's a huge part of the playoffs. And hopefully you can get through there and just be clean. I mean, it's a really tough place it's easier said than done. But I think at the end of the day, you just got to keep your eyes open and make sure you miss the wrecks.
How aggressive can you be? Is it playing it safe? Is it aggressive toward the end? Like, what's the strategy usually, or the mentality going into this one?
It's a little bit of both because I think you have to be aggressive because there's just too many points on the line. If you don't get stage points, if you don't finish good, that points lead that we have will easily go away. So you have to be aggressive, but at the same time, if you see them getting crazy and you're in a bad spot, you probably have to drop out and be a little bit careful.
I know you're really focused on the playoffs right now, but just looking quickly into 2025, you're going to be in the Cup Series again. How excited are you for that opportunity?
Really excited. I mean, I think we're putting together a really great group with the Haas Factory team, and really excited with my crew chief, Aaron Kramer, and it's really cool to try and build something new and build something that we can really make great. And I think the alliance with RFK is going to be really good for us with Ford and everybody. So we're excited. I think we can really hit the ground running.
All right, we're at Andy's Frozen Custard. You're not going to be running that at Talladega, but you are going to be running it here locally at the Charlotte Roval in a couple of weeks. How important is that? I know you've talked about the importance of that sponsorship, but maybe doing it here locally to Charlotte.
Well, it's awesome just because I live 10 minutes from Andy's Frozen Custard in Cornelius, and then there's one in Concord by the track also, so it's just awesome to see them in person and see them at the track. So hopefully we can bring some custard to the racetrack and get some more fans.
Roval's going to have a little different flavor with some of the turns this year. Have you looked that far in advance at all?
For sure. Yeah. It's going to be crazy. The turn 7 that they added is probably the slowest corner in NASCAR. So it's going to create a lot of chaos from beating and banging and people fighting for real estate. So it's going to be a chaotic race for sure.
Outside of racing, you're a new dad. You got Cal Custer, 2-month-old currently right now. How's that going? And I'm sure fans would love an update on that.
It's been awesome. I mean, my wife, Carrie's been a superhero through the whole process. And it's been really cool having him and bringing a trophy home from Bristol to him. So hopefully, I think he's going to be at the Roval at Charlotte. So that'll be cool to have him at his first race.
All right, should we bring in like, if you can come, you can actually order.
This is it. This is the frozen custard.
Okay, the frozen custard. What's in it?
It has melted chocolate chips, peanut butter, Heath bar, and vanilla frozen custard.
So pretty much everything.
You can't really mess it up.
All right, Cole Custer, we appreciate it so much. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you.
Now, Larry, in other NASCAR news, a possible huge shakeup as two teams, 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports, sued the racing organization this week. The antitrust lawsuit claims NASCAR and Chairman Jim France are holding a monopoly over the revenue from the Cup Series. Now, it claims that the new charter system limits the competition by unfairly binding teams to its series, tracks, and suppliers. Some big news here this week. What do you make of all this? How do you see this playing out?
Kind of makes me sad, and I guess I'm very, very confused. You know, NASCAR has made so many changes over the last decade. Up until 2017, 2017, there was no such thing as a charter system. The value of a race team was what the building was worth and what the auction would bring. My big fear, and I'm all about change. Even though I'm 65 years old, I'm okay if change makes something better. But my biggest fear, Gabe, is Curtis Polk and Michael Jordan, both with 2311, that they're trying to turn these charters into franchises. And when you have franchises, the owners run the sport. I'm not saying what the NFL does is wrong, but to me, to let the owners run the sport of NASCAR would be a huge mistake for the sport.
Yeah, definitely some big news and something to keep an eye on for sure. Well, still to come here on Around the Track, Hendrick Motorsports and Joe Gibbs Racing are usually two of the teams that are going neck and neck at the track, but this week they're teaming up. We'll explain coming up next. And you don't need to be at the track to be one of the best racers in the world. Just ask this guy. Up next, you'll meet Bobby Zelensky, who doesn't let any obstacle get in his way of virtual victory lane. We got more Around the Track coming up next. Now this is what the NASCAR community is all about. Multiple teams and tracks coming together to help those affected by Hurricane Helene. Both Joe Gibbs Racing and Hendrick Motorsports using their helicopters to bring supplies to those in need. 2311 Racing holding its own donation drive, then taking it a step further. The GOAT, Michael Jordan, donating $1 million to relief efforts in western North Carolina. Then you have Joey Logano donating $250,000 of his own money. Charlotte Motor Speedway holding a donation drive, and they're still accepting donations to deliver as you are hearing this right now. And William Byron is one of NASCAR's biggest stars, but he didn't get his break on the real track. He got noticed from video game racing, so to say. eNASCAR was launched back in 2018 to give more people opportunities to be a part of the sport. And as our Joey Ellis explains, it also gives opportunity to those who cannot race at the sport's highest level, a shot at glory.
Well, I'm going to act like I know what I'm doing on this driving simulator. There's actual eNASCAR drivers who have made this very simulator their livelihoods, and 4 of them will be racing here in person at the NASCAR Hall of Fame in tonight's iRacing Series Championship, and that includes Bobby Zelensky, whose early scoliosis diagnosis is one he certainly has not let define his racing career.
I did do go-karts when I was about 8, 9 years old. And I was going to go to sprint cars, but my dad got a little scared because of my back, because it was just so bad and he didn't want to risk it. I could do exactly what I wanted to do just online, and that just quenched that thirst of racing competition, and you get to be associated with Joe Gibbs Racing and stuff like that. It's special.
Things have worked out quite well for Zelensky, who's a full-time sim racer and one of the best in the sport, fulfilling his newfound passion while at the same time finding an escape, at least temporarily, from an otherwise painful condition.
With a scoliosis, I don't even think about it because it doesn't matter. Maybe I'm in quite a bit more pain all the time than everybody else, but when you're racing, you're just in that mode. It does not matter anymore. And I've never really talked about it much just because it doesn't matter to me when I'm racing.
Zelensky hopes to serve as inspiration for others facing similar situations, that there's still access to racing. He's keeping his future plans open, but for now, he likes where he's at in sim racing.
The real life racing is just, I guess, a pipe dream or just a dream, just to get the opportunity to race somewhere. I don't think it's unrealistic at all. Even if I work out really hard and exercise really hard, I'm limited in what I can do. Race a real car, that'll be a bonus. This is my thing.
And after leading on the final lap, Zelensky would spin out trying a block before the checkered flag. He would finish 14th. Congrats to Parker White on his first eNASCAR title. Well, still to come on Around the Track, back in the spring, it was Tyler Reddick burning it down in Dega, and if he can sweep the season, it'll certainly go a long way. Who are we picking in our victory lane lots? You'll find out next, right here on Around the Track. All right, check this out. Leave it to Ryan Preece to bring back all the Ricky Bobby feelings. The 41 of Stewart Haas Racing this week, sponsored by Wonder Bread. And yes, that is a replica of the car driven by Will Ferrell in the movie Talladega Nights, a classic back there in 2006. And it's right down to the fire stripe on the side. Preece says he hopes to be the Ricky Bobby who wins, not the one praying to Tom Cruise and Oprah when he's on fire. We'll see how this weekend shakes out for Mr. Preece. Well, if you ain't first, you're last. Here's who Vegas has taken the checkered flag in the YellaWood 500 at Talladega. Ryan Blaney, Joe Logano, and Brad Keselowski all have 9-1 odds. Then you have Kyle Busch, Rowdy. He has the 4th best odds at 10-1. Then William Byron rounds out the top 5 with 13-1 odds to take the checkered flag at Talladega. And last week, none of us saw a non-playoff driver taking the win. Then a proverbial watermelon was smashed on our heads, courtesy of one Ross Chastain. So Larry, it's a super speedway. Anyone can win. Who's your victory lane lock this weekend?
Well, I think Chase Elliott will be fast there in that Hendrick car, but he's from Georgia, so I'm going to stay away from him. People from Georgia is having a tough time winning right now. You see what I did there, Roll Tide? So I'm going to go with a guy that's always very aggressive at Daytona and Talladega. He's not won there this year. He did win Atlanta. Joey Logano. He's going to punch his ticket to the round of 8.
You got Joey Logano. Okay, just a little bit more. I mean, just why do you think he's going to get it done? He has, like, obviously 3 career wins. I mean, obviously he's very successful there.
Well, again, he's going to be very aggressive.
Yeah.
We know that. That will pay off sometimes, but sometimes he will throw a block that goes bad. Hopefully that will happen for Joey on Sunday. Remember, he's made the championship 4 every single even year since this whole format started in 2014.
See if he can get it done. Well, I know super speedways are a wild card, but sometimes I got to roll with a Hendrick driver to get it done. Give me William Byron to take the checkered flag at Dega. He opened the season, of course, for the win at a super speedway in the Daytona 500. He has 2 second-place finishes at Talladega, including one in this very race last year. 3 of the top 10 finishes in his career. I know he's sitting pretty there, leading the standings right now. I think this win will give him a little bit more cushion heading into the Roval next week. And of course, we got a big show coming up next week ahead of the Charlotte Roval for Larry McReynolds. I'm Gabe McDonald. We'll see you back here next week when we look ahead to the Bank of America Roval 400 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Enjoy the race this weekend.